Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. It is time for your Wednesday interview. And joining me today, I have Jasmine Maietta, founder and CEO of Round21, which is a platform for art and creativity through sports. So to get a little bit more tactical there, Round21 partners with athletes and artists to create branded products like basketballs. They actually did a collaboration with Bored Ape Yacht Club to do a Basey basketball and experiences as well that they do. They've partnered with Coinbase on a variety of experiences. I actually went to an event with Coinbase and Round21 and Vayner that was very cool at Madison Square Garden. Round21 has worked with the NFL Players Association, the WNBA Players Association, Nouns, I mentioned, of course, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and Coinbase. They're very much about using sports paraphernalia as a canvas for art and culture. And really, at the core, the line that I've heard Jasmine say that really struck me and made me want to talk to Jasmine is they are disrupting the sports merchandise world. They feel like a lot of sports merchandise is boring and stodgy and staid. No offense to big sports fans and the sports merch they get, but there was just room for something more interesting. And we actually get into whether she's really targeting sports fans or whether she's really targeting consumers of cool fashion and cultural moments. And we really get into that discussion. What's important here is this is first and foremost a physical products and experiences company. But Jasmine is very integrated in the Web3 community. They have issued NFTs. They've played around with AR. So there's a big Web3 tie-in here. And of course, she's partnered with companies like Coinbase and Bored Ape Yacht Club and some really big powerhouses in the Web3 space. She also, Jasmine, pitched Round21 on an episode of Shark Tank and got a deal with Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, which they ultimately didn't end up doing together. And we actually talk about that on this episode. So if you're a Shark Tank fan, definitely stay tuned till the end where we talk about her experience a little bit on Shark Tank and then specifically why she ended up walking away from the deal with Mr. Wonderful. And we also just talk about the macro shifts she's seeing, first in sports specifically, I would say, that led her to feel like it was the right time for a company like Round21. Jasmine was a professional basketball player in Spain for a number of years. She then ran marketing teams at Under Armour and Peloton. She was at Reebok. She ran a marketing team for Hasbro. And we get into what she learned from those experiences. I would say Round21 is really about brand identity. And the business she's building heavily relies on having a cool brand identity. And this is something Jasmine is very aware of. So we talk about how do you build that strong brand identity? How do you market when your job is to be cool? And I think she's really savvy about all that and certainly has taken from her experiences at these massive companies and then now as a startup founder. So I think folks will get a lot out of this. I absolutely loved this conversation. I'm a huge fan of Jasmine. And I hope y'all are going to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed having it. And with that, we need to hear a word from our lovely sponsors, and then it's on to my conversation with Jasmine Maietta. Y'all know the phrase, not your keys, not your crypto. Well, in a world where too many people have had to learn that the hard way, Overpriced JPEGs is proud to partner with Ledger, the world leader in critical digital asset security. Ledger's Nano S Plus and Nano X hardware wallets, paired with the Ledger Live app, Ledger's own software for setting up your Nano device and managing your crypto assets, is the easiest way to start your crypto journey while maintaining full control of your digital assets. You can use all your favorite dApps with Ledger Live, accessing 15 plus Web3 apps, including 1inch, Paraswap, Lido, and Zerion. So you can not only manage, but also grow your portfolio. And Ledger Live is available on mobile and desktop. Securing digital assets shouldn't be complicated. Ledger is as easy as it gets. Uncompromising security, effortless connectivity, full transparency, Ledger is your one-stop shop to trade and track crypto, grow your assets, and manage NFTs. Secure your future with Ledger. Visit shop.ledger.com today or check out the link in the show notes. I am so excited to announce that this year, Overpriced JPEGs has partnered with OPENSEA, the world's leading NFT marketplace built for everyone, creators, collectors, noobs, and experts alike. I'm an OpenSea user because they have the best selection of NFTs and a truly inclusive view of the ecosystem, supporting 8 chains and 8 global languages. I trust the systems they've put in place to keep the space safe, like copy mint protection, malicious URL detection and removal, robust verification, and more. It's why they are the place to buy, sell, and create NFTs. That's right. You know OpenSea, you use OpenSea, but did you know that OpenSea now has drops? New exclusive projects launch every week from top projects and creators, and you can check them out now using the link in the show notes. They also recently introduced self-serve drops, which is in beta, and allows creators to launch their projects right on OpenSea. This drops product gives creators access to tools like rich storytelling drop pages, multi-chain support, and drop mechanic customization. The full launch for self-serve drops is coming this spring. So check out the upcoming drops on OpenSea right now using the link in the show notes and own what moves you. You'll also be supporting the show in the process. Jasmine, welcome to Overpriced JPEGs.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming.
We have been talking about this for so long. I'm so excited to finally have you here. I think we did a sports month back in February and we wanted to get you on it, and then scheduling and whatever else, and it didn't happen. And then it's been on the radar for forever. You are just somebody I so love and admire, and I know my team adores you. So I'm so excited to actually have you here now.
I appreciate that. And February for anyone in sports is like all-star with Super Bowl. Like, it is hard to pin down anyone. So I couldn't believe you had a February sports month.
I know.
This is well worth the wait.
Blockchain sports, you know, we're this weird corner of sports. Corner's probably too generous for what we are. Who knows what we are at this point? Anyway, I actually want to start there, I guess, which is I really want to talk about some of the macro trends you were observing in sports in your world and marketing that led you to this concept for Round 21.
Well, I've been in sports since I was not in diapers, but honestly since early identity formation, which was middle school basketball through college, played professionally overseas. And so as a player and then into the marketing side of sports, I witnessed this generational shift, literally as it was happening, which were really three things. One, sports, you know, the big car deal, beverage deal, McDonald's deal, shoe deal, that dynamic when I was playing was about endorsements and posing with a product and getting paid. Two, the idea of fandom was armchair entertainment. Like, you sat and you watched, it was very passive. You sat and you watched a game. You didn't go out and engage the way that fans do today. And third was the value of sports was rooted predominantly in performance. And based on the way people today think about the values and what they invest in and what they align in, it comes through many more things than performance. It's who the players are. It's what the partnerships that the team has represent. It's, are the WNBA players flying charter or not? Like, just the sense of value alignment is so different. And so for us, Round 21 is a representation of a modern sports brand. We want to take advantage of these athletes who are brands and give them a platform to express who they are through the game and beyond. We want to take advantage of this consumption of sports 24/7 in real life, digitally, physically, et cetera, and be a platform for that for partners and players to participate in and fans to participate in. And then third, at best, we are values aligned because we partner with independent artists and athletes to reimagine sport as a canvas for self-expression. So it's really multiple things that were insights that have led to where we are. And, you know, there's no stopping us now.
Mm-hmm. What's so interesting to me about this is it's such a perfect example, microcosm of just the broader phenomenons in the world economy, I guess, right? Which is the creator economy. And I've heard you say in the past, when you were growing up, you rooted for teams, and now obviously we still root for teams, but people really latch on to individual players. I mean, I see that in my own household. I've referenced it multiple times in the podcast. I'm engaged to a man who's a huge Buffalo Bills fan, but Josh Allen is like almost equal to the Buffalo Bills to him. It's not just about the Bills, it's also about Josh Allen specifically. And that's such an interesting shift that is at the heart of what NFTs and what we talk about on this show is about, right? That creator economy, the empowerment of individual creators. But you're so right. And I really hadn't thought about it until I heard you say it, that there's this creator centricity now, or I'm sorry, player centricity now to sports that's new. Would you say it's new?
I don't know if it's new because people who played sports have been traded left and right forever. But I do think when the icons of the game in team sports, the LeBrons, the Tom Bradys, after spending a majority of their career in one uniform, move to the other, and you see their fans go with them, I think that feels very new because of the commercialization and the exposure that they have. And because of things like a specific colorway that may be tied to the player and the team. And then the next drop is the whole new colorway, but the demand stayed strong, right? So that's the indicator, I think, of the value of the player in addition to the team that they may play for. In addition, the market and the fandom people have and the pride people have for where they're from and what team represents where they're from, I think has taken on a new face as well. And I give credit to the idea that we went through this mass globalization with the advent of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram giving us access to everyone everywhere. And people have now come back, I think, a little bit more to their home base, and COVID probably contributed a little bit to that. And being able to root for someone who you believe in based on what they do on the court or off the court or on the pitch or off the pitch, plus their representation of where you're from, I think is a new layer of identity that maybe wasn't as strong as it used to be.
As we're charting this trend, I'd be curious, where do you think the Michael Jordan Nike deal fits in this like overarching story of history? I watched Air when it came out X number of months ago, and that felt like maybe you could call it the beginning of what you're describing, where obviously he was an endorser of Nike or Nike was the endorser of Michael Jordan, and that was in that era. But he also had a little bit of that co-creation element to it and was able to get the royalties and able to get a cut of ownership of the shoe. Like, where would you put that story in this overall narrative?
Absolutely the tip, right? It was definitely the catalyst or the spark. Catalyst being maybe there was a sense of identity of Magic and Bird with Converse, but that still wasn't the level of ownership or perceived ownership and now real ownership that brand Jordan back then with little lowercase letters was representing. I think credit to his mom, as we've all kind of seen now on the big screen and through the press, but in general, to have the confidence to say that I'm the brand and this is a product that I'm going to get behind is certainly how athletes today are approaching, or the athletes that we work with are approaching the opportunity they have. I also feel like the investment that Nike made in the marketing of that is a benchmark for what is required to succeed. And as a small startup, Round21 obviously doesn't have that kind of budget, but we can be more creative today. And that difference today where the athlete has a platform, whether it's through social media or otherwise, to market their own products, I think is certainly net new relative to Michael Jordan. But back then, Nike was spending beyond what anyone could have imagined to really put him on the map. And then of course he performed for decades, and the legacy is what it is and is continuing to be now with brand Jordan, I wouldn't call it an independent, but a very single-minded brand property that Nike owns.
Yeah, it does stand on its own within Nike. Okay. So I'm also interested in this idea that there's more than just performance now when it comes to an athlete. And one place my mind goes is you obviously have this change to the rules around NIL, the name, image, likeness, in college sports, where college athletes now have the ability and the right to monetize their name, image, likeness in a way they weren't able to previously. And you can maybe correct me if I'm imprecise in the way I describe any of this. And one of the things that's interesting to me is, it's not necessarily the best athlete or just like the single best performer who's doing the best under these new NIL rules. I think in some ways there's a little bit of a hot girl phenomenon going on. You've got like the Cavender twins or Livy Dunn, and not to take anything away from their incredible talent and hard work, but it also has to do with the way that they have marketed themselves. Or even I think of, and this is obviously not a college athlete, but if you think about like Kaepernick and you think about, the way he was able to really stand out and get a great Nike deal and things because of his social justice causes, and maybe speak a little bit more to that. It feels like it's very much cutting to the core of what you're doing at Round21 and what you're trying to build.
Yeah, I think we all see I would say, expected model, and model being used in a double meaning here, expected model of, hey, hold my can of Coke in a bikini so that we can get that shot and sell ads against it because guys like that and they'll buy, or at least they'll slow down the scroll and then we can retarget that. what we try to pay attention to, and I'll give credit, actually, if we're going to stay in the Jordan era, Lindsey Burns, who we know is a big friend of both of us in this industry, actually taught me. She was like, if you were going to personify the Round 21 athlete, it would be Dennis Rodman. She was like, you still have to be out there, but like be who you are and unapologetically, and people will come. And you think back to that era, and what was so counterculture was how he perceived kind of his brand coming to life on his terms, which was very radically different than what the brands typically allowed. And he perceived that as his truth, and he went on and he did that. And when Round 21 partners with a Kayvon Thibodeau, who was drafted number 5 last year in the NFL draft, or a Brittany Griner, which has been an incredible, I mean, it will be one of this year's top partnerships that we've done. None of that has to do with how much skin they're showing, and all of it has to do with who they stand for and in their own skin as with their community. And so as those skin-driven, kind of sensationalized endorsements happen, I really encourage athletes to see the Chase Griffins of the world, or the Sydney Colsons of the world in the WNBA, who are really being themselves and getting credit for that, because those partners, and for sure Round 21 is looking for those types of athletes beyond what they may just look like in a photo.
Yeah, and beyond even the way that folks get the attention or get the checks or whatever it is, like it's that these athletes are understanding, even now we're seeing at the collegiate level, the personal branding side of it. And that's what you are empowering at Round 21. That's the business proposition as well, is like, these are individuals, they're personal brands. These athletes are more than just, bodies on a court or whatever, playing this game. They are brands themselves, and the merchandise and the collectibles and everything around it should express that uniqueness as well. And sports and culture go so hand in hand. So like, how do we bring a cool cultural element to sports brands? And this is going to get me to this second, as I was conceptualizing the trends that I think you're latching on to. One of them is this idea that, and I spoke about this with G Money yesterday, actually, on a Twitter space, which is this shift from just mass market, mass production to mass customization. And that as the world becomes more niche, you can find, if you have a very, very niche interest, you can find a podcast on that incredibly niche interest that's being reflected in the goods we're going to want to buy. And we want increasingly unique, one of X, like style, again, clothes or collectibles. And it feels like you're really tapping into that as well.
Yes, and we see it as, and G Money nails it, we see it as identity. For us, it's identity. And sometimes that identity is, I'm a Bulls fan. And sometimes that identity is, I'm a Bulls fan from Bronzeville, and I identify as an African-American male. And that level of identity is what Round 21 stands for. It comes through who are the athletes we partner with, it's the artists we partner with, their story, their natural connection to sports, the moment that the merch is dropped in, the story that the merch conveys, and yes, the scarcity or the limited value and volume of access. And for us, that is the truest form of customization, because not everybody wants to upload a picture of their cat drinking beer onto a t-shirt. That level of personalization I can leave to Etsy, but we feel like there is a truth to feeling who you are through what you're passionate about. And it's a needle that, has to really thread a balance of multiple facets of identity. And I think the Bored Ape Yacht Club did it better than anyone at the time, which was individual PFPs, but with a black and white logo that says, I'm a part of that club. And that balance is the balance we've taken since before, since really 2019, which is I'm a fan of something in sports, an athlete, a team, a league, a movement, and I'm someone. And so providing that duality or multiplicity of identity through what Round 21 provides is really the value we offer within the overall merch environment.
So give an example if you can, like talk about one of the partnerships you've had and how that duality, you balance that duality in the context of that partnership or drop.
Yeah, I'm going to give you two actually. So one is with the NFLPA. So NFL name, image, and likeness.
The Players Association, for any of my non-sports folks out there.
I actually feel is under-commercialized, which is a funny thing to think about in America's like most popular sport. But predominantly, you're going to see a Packers logo on a green tee, or you're going to see a Detroit Lions hat, flat brim hat. Rarely do you see player merch that really cuts through. And we wanted to bring a sense of the insight around collectability and trading cards to fans, but in a new form and format for the sport or for the game. And so we partnered with the NFLPA, and we were very intentional in the 6 players we launched with, which included Mahomes, Brady, Gronk, Derrick Henry, Russell Wilson, some of the most strongest selling jerseys, some of the most popular markets for team sports and for the NFL in particular. And we partnered with an artist who was a former Division I football player, Dwight White, out of Chicago, that has this incredible illustration style. And we gave him the story of an iconic play in an Icons game. And he hand drew the play. He represented the sounds of the commentators. He represented the fingerprints of where the player's hand would have been on the ball when that play was made. And we have a few left of this very limited edition I think we have 2 Brady balls left. But the fans, for again, Round 21, which is a startup and certainly like punching over our weight for what we're doing in the market, but underweight from an awareness perspective, they went crazy for that format of a collectible that commemorated a player that they love.
Yes.
So that's one example. And it was very individualized. The second example is we're hot off the presses of our World Cup drop with the U.S. Women's National Team Players Association. Arguably a miss from where they could have, brought home the hardware and been the national treasure 5 times over, but absolutely crushing it for a moment in women's sports and women's merch. Our small role in this was we partnered with the Players Association to represent the players as individuals, but coming together on the global stage for the World Cup in partnership with artist Jason Atienza. Jason is Filipino-born, U.S. living, son of a deaf-mute father who communicated through art his entire childhood with his father. Wow. And has this very consistent mosaic style that brought the colors of the red, white, and blue through, but with signature product for the 4 players we chose, which were Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, Kelly O'Hara, and Crystal Dunn. What that resulted in, Forbes picked up Round 21 and did a feature story. The Washington Post did a feature story last weekend. It was the first time that merch had the symbolism of national pride and the players represented in a way that crossed well beyond the tee. We had a bucket hat, a scarf, etc. So the reason I go deep into both of those examples is the care that we take around the player story and the sports moment really ends up representing the impact that we have to fans' lives. And they're very, very different, but we think that bespoke approach is what will continue to keep us relevant and continue to keep the Athletes and Players Association interested in how we bring their stories to life.
So I think that's so cool. And we're going to get into some of the businessy elements of this in a minute because I have questions there. But I want to ask in terms of your target demo or your target consumer, I feel like on some level what you're doing is very, and I'm going to use these terms and everybody forgive me if this is not the perfect term and I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody, sports fans, but like what you're doing is kind of highbrow and cool. And you've got this like amazing artist and he's got this deep story. I don't necessarily think of sports fandom as like highbrow. I think of it as beer, and this is as a sports fan, right? But you're talking about beer and chips and like, so who ends up being your target market? And do you think there's a challenge with marrying these two?
So that's a great question. Our target market are fans of anything. We just happen to start in sports, right? So the target market, we're all a fan of something, which is also a truth in life. But The way I've always led in the roles I've had prior to Round 21 is you build for the company you're becoming, not the company you are. And I firmly believe that the culturally conscious are going to start to show up and wake up in sports in a way that will be a mass renaissance around sports merch. And it's already starting. And I think sports as an industry, one, it came naturally to me, but two, between collectibles and grading systems and the sense of scarcity and collectability. I mean, sports fans have shown a highbrow and an interest in overspending on things that have long-term sustainable value or growth in value. Why can't that be applied to merch? I mean, frankly, the Bored Ape, now it's different, but when it launched for about 2 years, StockX had it trading on, upwards of 5x what the original basketball was. And that was a basketball product.
That was your collaboration with Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is, it's become definitely a symbol. Like there's an if you know thing for people who have the Bored Ape Round 21 early basketball.
Symbol. It's great.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the first example of Round 21 being about cultural goods, not sporting goods. And we can't go around making up new definitions all over the place, but that's how we talk about it. And we don't do anything that's cheap and rubber, and a commoditized supply chain. Everything we do has a premium hand feel. It comes from an ethical factory. Everything we do, we try to build to a limited run or time-based digital drop so that we only make the physical twin so that there's less waste. We feel like those are all going to be characteristics of just business. So we don't go around marketing them publicly, but that culturally conscious is there. They're there in what they buy at the grocery store. They're there when they're buying a car. People used to think, who's going to buy a Prius? That 10 years before electric cars was like the thing. That's what we believe Round 21 is. We are the Prius of our industry, and we believe that the culturally conscious are going to care about the story, the make, the product, the model, the scarcity, and certainly the partners we keep. We say no to most inbound because we know that in brand and brand management, half the time who you keep your company with is a part of who your brand is. And so all of that combined is a long view. And we do believe we're making for sports fans, but they may be still hiding a little bit, but they'll come out.
Yeah. So this makes total sense to me. So I'm picturing the Venn diagram where you have sports fans over here on the left. You have what you would call the culturally conscious or cool in the know folks of culture is the other circle. That overlap, that centerpiece where the overlap exists is probably like your core diehard consumer, but you're actually a little bit more in that right circle. That culturally conscious kind of cool in the know group is actually your secondary market, and then the explicitly sports fan may even be tertiary in that 1, 2, 3, and you'll see how it evolves.
Yes, and we actually segment our products based on that around collectibles, wearables, and playables. So there is a kid somewhere, and we know it because we get the sales data, who wants their basketball to not be brown. And they're also the kid that wants to stand out in class. And they're also the kid that's paying $200 for that sneaker just because they want it and no one else can get it. That kid wants to stand out, and Round 21 products are for them, but it's playable. They're still playing. They're going to take it to the blacktop, et cetera. Wearables are for those who are sitting in markets that we spend a lot of time in, whether it's Atlanta or Houston or Detroit or LA or New York, where they already put money down on things that say something about who they are. They're the G money target who are making those culturally conscious decisions around mass customization because they want to stand out. And then the collectibles are for it's expanding the collectible market, full stop, but it's also for the art market. And we have some things coming out with the MoMA this holiday that are in partnership with legends in art that are no longer with us. So we also span the art market with cultural sporting goods. And that market is something that we believe pushes us more towards the first part of the Venn diagram you mentioned, which are people who collect because it's a display piece. And, they want to go beyond something on their wall. And we have something for them.
It makes sense. And it's clicking as you describe these. I've heard you say it before. You said it earlier here. You describe your pieces as canvases or sports as a canvas. And that's clicking in a new way as I hear you put it in those terms, where you're really using sports paraphernalia as a canvas for something.
Self-expression.
Yeah, for self-expression, for something that's quite rich. So let's talk about the branding and marketing side of this, because it's so crucial to this. This is about brand, and it has to have that cool vibe. And I heard you on a podcast, I think over a year ago, say you've never put any money into ads, you've never advertised. Is that still true? Correct.
The hard way, yes.
Yeah, and I assume that's intentional, and not just because, it's a nice way to save money, but because you need to kind of seep into the culture as opposed to shout at the culture. Is that the decision, the calculus?
There are a lot of reasons, actually. One is we're building what we believe are long-term relationships with our community and not transactional. And, even from the perspective of discounting, we wrestle with this. We, to my knowledge, have never, at holiday last year, we tested discounting and it didn't really move the needle. Our consumer will pay. And the community will pay if they believe that it aligns to their value. The real reason is the brands I've worked for, including Peloton and Under Armour and Hasbro, have played around with pricing a lot, and I've witnessed price sensitivity and price value and the psychology around price. And we are just completely building a different model.
Yeah.
Ads today want you to, an ad just saying like a sponsored ad to get awareness and stuff like that, we don't do either. The word sponsored, the word ad, the word advertorial, the word advertisement is a outdated marketing model, in my opinion. Content that's rich, content that entertains, content that teaches you something, content that helps people discover something is still advertising, but it's done in a way that is purely trying to engage the community on your terms in the spirit of them choosing what they want to do with that next. And that's really the model and the approach that we're trying to take.
Yeah, honestly, for what it's worth, I think this makes so much sense on so many levels for a brand like yours. And where my head is going is actually two different places. One, folks who listen to this show regularly will know I talk all the time about David Horvath. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, and there's debate around, is his mode of thinking outdated? Is this an old model he's working off of? But at the core, what he says over and over again is he takes this very systematic, slow approach to brand building. And he really focuses on character IP, right? But the idea is if you're building a character brand, he really recommends starting in Asia. You start in like a couple of the right stores in Japan or in Korea, and you're there for 2 years before you start expanding out into other places, because you need people to discover you, not feel like they're being marketed to by you. Because people know if they're being marketed to by you, and they're going to have a different feeling and a different resonance with you as a brand if they feel like you've told them to buy you, as opposed to if they feel like they've just found or discovered you. I feel like that's part one of what resonated for me as I heard you talking, because it seems like you're very in tune with that concept.
I mean, to the level where our first product was designed in Japan, and it was ping pong, because we felt like it was so like, wait, what? That it would have definitely a rubberneck effect. And two, especially in sports, I happen to spend a lot of time in NFL, NHL, MLS locker rooms and know that there's a ping pong table in every team sport locker room. And having the ability to capitalize on that insight and not have to go and do a sponsorship deal with like a Spalding or a Wilson would at least give us a fighting chance of a position of a underdog. So we'll see if it pays off, but yeah.
Who bought that first? So who was like targeted, not to go back to this who are you targeting question, but like that ping pong collaboration, that very first one, or not collaboration, I guess, just you sold like rackets and balls, or was it just the rackets?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still on. We did a Kickstarter. Actually, Round21’s origin has to do with two major things in 2020. The NBA was our first big order. They bought ping pong paddles for the bubble. And we made custom ping pong paddles that spoke to social justice for the 2020 bubble season. And I cannot thank the NBA enough for kind of getting, behind us.
Behind that. You are so cool.
Kelly Flato, actually, just a shout out to her, having the vision to say, we're going to have a ping pong table, we're going to have paddles. These are the ones we should have. And two, the Kickstarter, which is all about ping pong and the spirit of we need things that bring us together during COVID. And this is one of those things. And I need your help because I didn't have money to like go and make ping pong paddles. And then, the community did. And we crushed our goal of 15K. I think it was 29K. And yeah, we went from there to the NFLPA and we won the startup pitch competition at Super Bowl, which was unbelievable in 2021 and have gone on since then.
That is so cool. Okay, well, bringing it back to this branding and marketing piece, because the other place my brain went as you described all this was Start With Why, the Simon, fairly famous Simon Sinek book, where he talks about specifically this came to mind as you were talking about discounting, like if your brand is based on a transaction, you'll end up in this downward spiral of just like cutting prices to get more sales, cutting prices. You need to have this broader ethos that people are buying into. And then it doesn't matter. They're price insensitive because they're buying into something bigger. And that's exactly what you're describing here with what you're building is you've clearly already built that because your community, as you said, like not to say that they're price insensitive and you're going to gouge them, but more that they know they're buying into something bigger or different. And it's not just about like $1 for this or $10 for that.
No, and it's been really amazing to hear literally the sentiment of the mission around self-expression through sports be played back to us by our community. And, we just spent 2 weeks in Phoenix at this huge high school tournament. We had never targeted this community with Round 21 products because frankly, I was like, these kids are going to try and play D1. They want a brown basketball. Like they're conditioned, but they immediately saw us like they see sneakers. And I loved that. I loved that they weren't coming to the, experience we built at Section 7 as like, what would I do with this? Would I play with it? They literally saw it as a cultural good that would expand who they are in a way that they could take it to a playground or they could put it in the back of their Zoom. I mean, that's the thing. We live in a digital world today. They could pose with it on Instagram. They could do trick shots with it on TikTok. Like we didn't have to tell them. They got it. And that's the value we see with the next generation, understanding how what you play, what you say is all about who you are versus team sports. I mean, even the word uniform in team sports, I think contributes to in team sports, this idea of masking or restricting who you are. And I grew up in the generation of the name on the back of the jersey it has nothing to do with who you are. The name on the back of the jersey is who the kids are now. That this idea of I'm going to be who I am and it could contribute to team benefits is something in team sports that we think is a value to what we're building. Individual sports, the Serena hot pink, out, and that's called an outfit versus a uniform, right? Or the ability for somebody like Michael Phelps to wear certain Beats headphone color over the gold headphone color over, like those were expression platforms they have as individual athletes, but team sports have never had that. And that's what Round 21 we hope is doing to shift the narrative around players in team sports being true to who they are, no matter what they play.
Let me introduce you to a brand new company that I could not be more excited about, Web3 a Web3 analytics platform that combines on-chain data with social media insights to give you the deepest, most meaningful intelligence into any NFT community. I have tested other analytics platforms out there, but Web3 has the most comprehensive capabilities I've seen in the NFT ecosystem. They apply sophisticated data science to wallet histories to determine behavioral patterns and help shape predictive analytics. In other words, they can tell you which Twitter accounts are actually the influencers in your space. And they can tell you what resonates most within a community by looking at what other communities token holders are involved in. The number of use cases here is virtually unlimited. So whether you're a trader, creator, institution, brand, agency, I promise Web3 has data that you want to see with the deep and actionable insights that you need to build, analyze, grow, start, whatever you want to do within the NFT space and in terms of building a business and a community. Now, they are still in very early days, so they're eager to connect with the community. So if you're interested in learning more about what Web3 can do for you and your business, and you should be, go and fill out the very short form linked to in the show notes, and someone from their team will reach out with more information and an opportunity for a product demo. Trust me, you won't regret it. How much time do you spend on the branding side? Like I've told you before, like I love the Round 21 branding, even forgetting the various collaboration pieces, like just the website. It's colorful. It's got this graffiti feel to it. It's bold. And I guess, so it's like, how much time do you spend on all of those little details? And to what extent do you think your expertise here is intuitive versus learned and studied? You obviously have this tremendous marketing background, but are you just like intuitive about what's cool?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm so not intuitive about what's cool. So if I can learn, that's exciting.
Yeah. And I truly believe anyone who thinks it's just them. I mean, I really admire so many founders of streetwear brands, but they end up surrounding themselves with a team that has just a different purview. Otherwise, you get old fast. And I don't mean even old timeline wise, although that happens too. I mean, you sit in one geo. What is happening in Japan? Yes, you can Google it, but like you need people around you who have a sense of trend watching and cool hunting, which for us is the artist community. I mean, we are overjoyed by the way they continue to keep Round 21 relevant. And they are, I mean, we say at Round 21, without you, there is no us. That's actually like part of our brand narrative. Without you, there is no us. And we mean that to the artists, to the athletes, and to the fans, because without them, you get dated. And we don't believe talent has to all be full-time employed. Like that's one of the other things is we believe in a decentralized, yes, to coin a phrase that would be common on this platform, a decentralized team, because that way we know, one, they'll stay hungry and excited to work with Round 21 because they don't have to give up anything.
Yeah.
Cherie on our team, Cherie is one of the most creative teammates we have, and she just got a new full-time role at another agency, and she's like, I built into my contract that I'm going to be able to continue to work with Round 21 because you let me work how I want to. And she does a bunch of our social stuff. She did all this Brittany Griner content. Amazing. So it's not intuitive in me. Brand has been learned by me. It was not I thought I was going to be a D1 basketball coach. But what I was fortunate to have was the experience at Reebok when Adidas acquired Reebok. So I immediately learned all about brand positioning, segmentation, and how sponsorship rights need to align with the values of the brand. And Adi took the team sports rights, which I think is still a mistake for Reebok back in the early 2000s, because Reebok was more the team sport athlete outside of soccer. Hasbro, I managed the entire family game portfolio. So one meeting would be Monopoly, one meeting would be Jenga, then Scrabble. Those are all individual brands with different IP, different heritage, different partnerships. And, you know, the Monopoly brand, people may not realize this, but every board for Monopoly is localized. So the Park Place in America is the Champs-Élysées in France. So Hasbro by far was my MBA around brand and marketing, because of the localization of many of the products. I mean, Trivial Pursuit, you can't put a bunch of questions around American history on the shelf in Bulgaria. Like we custom localized 70% of all the questions in every Trivial Pursuit. So Hasbro really taught me about cultural nuances, language, and humor. It also taught me around the sponsorships and partnerships you keep. I mean, Monopoly at McDonald's, 4 years of my experience there was partnering with the biggest fast food chain, QSR, in the world, and they did that promotion in Singapore and in New York City and everything in between. And brand is a combination of decisions and characteristics. For Round 21, it started with our name. Round is symbolic of unity, community, coming together, huddle. 2 is a characteristic that we are unwavering on, which is around partnership. And 1 is standing for individuality and individuals, and that's really through the lens of athletes. That gives us a playground, but that is non-negotiable. Those are the characteristics of the brand that are non-negotiable. Then it immediately starts to tell you who we're going to work with. Our suppliers, our artists, the people we want to partner with, our community members, the places we want to show up, because they need to represent those 3 things always, not 2 out of the 3, all 3. And then from the perspective of color, you know, we struggle with this because we're artist first. So we haven't landed on what's the Round 21 color palette. We're actually in a bit of that process now. Half of me is like, we should always be black and white because the color comes from the community. Half of me is like, we could pick something seasonally. And so that's the fun part once you've really established a foundation.
I think it's so cool that you have all these different colors. Like I you know, and now I've spent maybe more time than most like studying your brand because I was prepping for this interview and I've had conversations with you before, but I love the black and white thing with then this explosiveness of color that sort of shows up in different ways depending on the artist, depending on the product. For what it's worth. For what it's worth, that's my 2 cents. So I think what you're doing is so cool. I think the brand is so cool. I'm curious how you think about scaling, because it seems like that's tricky in a world where you're super niche, super cool products, working with artists, handpicking the artists. How do you think about that?
Well, one, I think scale is a bit subjective in the spirit of its growth, right? So when you think about So what does scale mean to you? Whatever, explain to us what scale means in your world. That's perfect. Exactly. Yeah. So from 2020 to today, I mean, we did a Kickstarter. We've gone from 0 to over 100 artists we've worked with. And I mean, I'm talking the likes of like just crazy, like Brian Brinkman, and the Basquiat estate is coming. And like, it's been so cool, unbelievable to work with all of these different artists. Shema Love, who's somebody new to Round 21 with the Brittany Griner drop. And so scale is coming through that creator collective, but again, being really intentional. The partners, you know, now for 3 years in, NFLPA, WNBPA, the U.S. Women's National Team PA, that still leaves us with the leagues. We have not partnered with the NBPA, the National Basketball Players Association, yet. MLS is on our radar as well. And then the entire athlete roster in the world, right? So thinking about the Man U's and the players. So that scale from an athlete story perspective. So then it's about how we bring product to market. And we actually have built a scalable platform that empowers IP owners to monetize their merch. And that is something we're beta testing now with preferred partners. And it gives us the ability to react quickly. And we've done this with other drops, actually, just to keep playing back the NFT token gated drops we've done. We did a Nouns drop at Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and we launched the digital version, and then we made the physical twin. And so from a speed and scale perspective, we have the infrastructure when a moment in sports happens to launch the digital version, engage the community around that Buffalo Bills moment, and then cap it to a 70. I mean, very nifty gateway of us, but like that is scale.
That's so cool. That's such an interesting, so again, going back to this conversation I had with G-Money yesterday when we were talking about digital physical twins, redeemables, and I was talking about, obviously I had overpriced gin, which the way that worked is we had folks who bought into this open edition NFT. If you have the NFT, you then can redeem it for the bottle of gin. And that allowed us to determine demand up front, which for a business like ours, especially in an industry like spirits, which can be very expensive, like we needed to know demand up front. We couldn't be guessing at this.
That's right.
But that works when it's specialized products, right? If you're going to buy fast fashion, you're not buying something in advance and then doing a redeemable. That doesn't work. But for a business like yours, and in this world that we're talking about of mass customization over just mass market, that's amazing. And so you can capitalize quickly by having the digital product out there. You can get the folks to kind of buy into the moment, determine demand up front, and then create the physical product after. That's amazing.
Yeah, and empower partners to do that. Actually, you know, at scale, empower partners to do that with our supplier partners. You know, there is a...
What do you mean?
So right now, the way that it has worked is we partner with the artist or the athlete or the team or the league or the players association. The moment happens, we commemorate it with a digital version, then we make the physical twin, or we build it seasonally and build it up front. Round 21 in the future, we have supplier partners, we have IP owners. We're building the platform to empower the IP owner. So say the athlete has a Nike deal. You know, why should we prohibit them to express who they are through that process? So like finding ways to be the pipes to the athlete and artist community and suppliers, the physical suppliers, is within the scalable model for Round 21. And the reason we're saying this is because if our ultimate goal and mission is to provide self-expression through sports at scale, access everywhere, how can one entity possibly know what's happening every moment in sports, right?
So you are you talking about being like basically a matchmaker where you have the Nike athlete, you have the supplier, you maybe have you have a pipeline of artists, that athlete comes onto your platform and says, okay, we're going to work with the supplier, this artist, let's commemorate this moment, go.
Brittany Griner is a Nike athlete.
And it doesn't compete with her Nike deal? She like it's
We launched her product. Basically, there are the appetite for the athletes, the teams, the leagues, to monetize moments, especially in a moment where broadcast rights and ticket sales are finite. You can only sell so many. Is extraordinary. And we're sitting at the epicenter and the intersection of that world. And we continue to get inbound and we continue to bring good products to market. And it's not competing with anything. It's amplifying everyone.
So cool. And do you feel like you'll always have because the core of your brand is this curational element.
Yes.
So like, yes, they can come in and an athlete can come in and say, I want to commemorate this moment and do this deal. But like at the end of the day, y'all have to have veto power or say, yes, this fits for us or not.
Absolutely. I think the level of curation is really the magic. The ability for us also to make that match, right? I talk a lot about, let's see, I don't want to keep using Brittany Griner. Okay, so Kayvon Thibodeau wanted his collectible for his community to represent 3 phases: his Oregon roots, his New York Giants era, and then his legacy with the kids. We chose Charlie Palmer, one of the most prolific 2-time Time Magazine cover artist out of Atlanta, who had done a little in basketball but never football, to pair up with Kayvon and his story. That would not have been the right project for some other artist that maybe has a more colorful palette or has a deeper sense of comic book. Like, it just wouldn't. So that curation in terms of who are the company we keep and who do we pair, plus how they get paired and the product it comes to life on, are all a value add that we bring. But we shouldn't feel like we have to be a middleman in that, if speed is really the game. And from a sports moments perspective, speed is everything.
Totally. I'm going to give this example, and I'm always afraid of, this is a controversial company and person, but I don't know if you saw that. Dave Portnoy just bought back, in parentheses, Barstool Sports for no money up front. Yeah. And I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, as people on this podcast know. So Barstool immediately started selling t-shirts that's Barstool Sports in parentheses Dave's version, because it's like Taylor's version. And I was like, I kind of want this shirt. Like, you're capitalizing on that moment in time. Yeah. There's this just mimetic feeling to it. And, you're doing, again, the highbrow art. This is like lowbrow, the memeiest of memes. But it's the same idea of when you're in that moment and you're a part of something, you're reading all the news, everybody else is reading at the same time. That impulse purchase, you know what I mean? It's that moment where you're like, I just want to be a part of this. I want to commemorate this. I want this t-shirt. I want this super cool, whatever. I have so many more questions that we haven't gotten to because I've just been loving this conversation so much where it's been going. But I do want to ask you about your time on Shark Tank. So you presented on Shark Tank. You were fantastic, by the way, as I think I've heard other people tell you, and obviously the judges, is that what they're called on Shark Tank? The judges all thought so. The Sharks. The Sharks, yeah. Okay, yikes. So the Sharks all clearly thought so too. And Mr. Wonderful offered you a deal. And then I know ultimately, so you said yes on the show, and then ultimately I think you backed out of the deal. And I would love to just have you explain your thinking on that. Why wasn't it right for you ultimately? And maybe tell folks a little bit about what the deal was.
Yeah, so on the show, it didn't end up the way my dream had said. I just assumed Damon and Mark Cuban were going to come in together and offer more than seriously. I was like, we are celebrating self-expression in sports. You've got 2 out of the 4 who've been in fashion and sports. And at the time in particular, we had just dropped the Board 8 basketball. We had just locked a Dick's Sporting Goods 6-figure purchase order. It was like all the characteristics of we're going to get a deal, and it would be from those 2 people. Well, that didn't happen. Yeah. You plan, God laughs, whatever the expression is. Exactly. And what was intuitive to me under the production hot lights while taping was happening was that we are building something of value, and it depends on how you're seeing us, because we have an NFT lane, we have a physical merch lane, we certainly have an expressive lane. And Kevin O'Leary very publicly at the time in 2021, when it was taped, had made a disproportionate investment in blockchain technology very publicly. And it was cool for him to see that as part of what we are building. After the taping and through due diligence, there are just other questions that are indicators around the alignment of where the mission of the business is versus where the transaction of the business is. Sometimes those are the same. They're not always the same. We use tokens as access to special edition products and yes, experiences as well. We do a lot with Coinbase. We're really proud of. The token is not the product. Thank goodness, right? Our business has never been about token sales. Token has been access, which we still firmly believe in, and we're building around that, and we'll continue to build around that. For us, the misalignment there was too big of a talking point.
He was weighted too heavily on the token digital NFT business, and you were like, we're actually still primarily physical with the digital side as an enhancement, as a digital twin, as a further way to build this community and access. Yeah. That makes total sense.
Yeah, and so and there's it was mutual at the end, and there's. We've always been building with the community, so we're really proud to continue to do that, so that we didn't actually hit a speed bump without any additional funding at the time.
Yeah, and so you said on when you were on Shark Tank, you had taken one round of funding. Have you taken funding since then?
We haven't. So really proud of being curated as our first investors, and they have been very, very, very supportive of Round21's continual mission and our trajectory and business. We are very cash conscious as we're building. We build with partners who believe in what we're doing, and we haven't raised since then. With the opportunity ahead with scaling, as I've discussed with you here on this call, we are certainly planning for growth ahead, and so that could change, but as of now, no.
That's so impressive, just that you've conserved cash the way you clearly have, to especially just the market that we're in. I know firsthand that brands are just that much more hesitant to spend out on anything, right? And so to the extent that you're a business that relies on, these companies, corporations, whatever, coming to you and wanting to do these partnerships and paying for it, it's a big testament to you for sure.
It's also a testament to the partners, though. I have to mention the Coinbase partnership and what that has also offered in terms of things we've done with IYK and Chris and Ryan and that team. I mean, we continue
love IYK.
We feel blessed that these partners, particularly anchored in the NFT and blockchain community, still see the value of Round21 and continue to invest with us in bringing products and experiences to life. I mean, just in short order, we're doing our fourth Coinbase event, actually, after last year's New York Liberty, 2 events with the New York Knicks, and now with the New York Liberty again in Brooklyn, because for them, sports culture is a very important part of culture, and they value Round21's approach to driving what feels like a personalized, cool, curated experience, and the Liberty are amazing partners. And then, at the Knicks event, we brought a NFC tagged apparel drop with IYK to that, and that was all. It's just mutual, like, let's continue to build together.
Yeah. Tell us about this upcoming Coinbase event, because I think it's in a few days.
Yeah, it's actually called Futures Night. It's the second Liberty event we've done with Coinbase and the 4th event we've done with them. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
It's August 28th?
It's August 28th at Barclays Center. Yep. It's open.
I missed the first one of these that you did. I'm here in New York, and I was invited, and I'm not going to be here the second time either. Oh, well. I'm so bummed.
Yeah, it's usually like 400 people strong. They're playing the Las Vegas Aces, which is primed to be a playoff, like, heated matchup, and they beat the Aces pretty handily, and the Aces are number 1 in their division. So the Coinbase experience, I mean, we're bringing in friends and family. Sophia Chang is the artist we're bringing in Jason Mark. We've got other interactive elements as well, and it's the Liberty, Coinbase, and Round21, and it's a great example of everyone playing to their strengths and thinking about the fan first. And we have a minted moment property we're doing again this time with IYK that's going to be much more seamless to mark your moment that you were there. This has been a property we've done now since Art Basel in December 2021, where you're actually getting a personalized proof of attendance, which is something that is really important to our community. And yeah, it's just a good time, and it's an event before the game, so you get to enjoy the game after as well.
Awesome. And I guess as we start to get close to wrapping up here, though, again, I always say that, and then I ask like 6 more questions, so you'll have to cut me off when you absolutely must leave. But I am curious your perspective at this point on NFTs, AR. Let's talk about the digital future broadly. I know you've done some really interesting stuff with AR, with the drops you've done. Obviously, you've done a number of things with NFTs. What's your perspective on them right now, where we sit in this market?
Yeah, so a lot of people in my world describe Round 21 as sports, art, and tech. And I always say thank you, right? Because the tech piece is always enabling the sports and art. It's actually not that we set out to build a software product or something that was more tech forward. I'm not a CTO, CEO, right? So that there's also that. But it goes back to the idea of without you, there is no us. We actually have a fair share of engineers, AR, and otherwise, as part of our team. Worsta is our tech partner, and they are amazing, and they are tried and true, like a Google Cloud provider and a leader in Web3 development. They're doing, I think at Vayner, they did this huge podcast series that they're going to start releasing. So they're amazing. So we will continue to build ways that enhance fan engagement through products and experiences. And our augmented reality products that we've done with the NFLPA, with the US Women's National Team, bring the art to life. I mean, what's more cool than that, right? Is that you have this commemorative collectible, and on it, there's an AR filter that brings the art to life. To us, we think about every product as the beginning of the next experience. Now you layer in tagged apparel with IYK. Well, you're at a moment in sports, you get access to this collectible that represents the moment, and it's tagged and gives you deeper content or early access to the next thing. That ecosystem is the opportunity with technology in Round 21, and we'll continue to leverage it across all of the different paths that tech will take if it enhances the fan experience. And so that's really the way that we think about it.
Are you optimistic on NFTs and AR?
Am I optimistic? Yes, these are all tools. So it's like, to me, in the gold rush, asking if you're optimistic about the shovel or the pickaxe. And I'm optimistic that it'll be used. I think tokens as a product and as like the preferred form of currency, and like, I have no idea.
Sure. Yeah.
But as a facet, yes.
I've been diving in on redeemables as a category recently in a number of different ways. We have published a newsletter about it earlier this week. I'm obviously thinking about it because I have this redeemable NFT. This NFT, you get the bottle of gin for it. And it came up in my conversation with G Money that I've referenced. OpenSea is doing a lot of work on it. So I've had conversations with OpenSea about it. And perhaps it's just because I'm spending a lot of time and energy thinking about this, but increasingly I almost feel like my story of the path to, I hate to say the next bull run because it'll look different, but let's call it that, or our path out of NFTs being like the dirty word or the side, the stepchild or something, is like digital twins, is cool physical items that the next generation want and love and think are cool that come with a digital twin. And then once they start having and I do think it's probably the next generation, but could be people in their 20s, whatever, like once they then also have this digital item, they're going to start wanting ways to show it off. And they're going to want to start seeing other people's digital item. And because that's what's missing right now is that context in the NFT world, is the like, I talk about this within the fashion category, right? Like a Gucci skirt in the metaverse means absolutely nothing because like you need context for that to mean anything. Yeah. So you could put it in a game and that could be cool. But we need that like Instagram culture for digital goods, for this stuff to really have the social signaling power that people want. And I think that physical digital twin thing could really be the piece that gets us there.
Yeah, well, we were on the phone with EA Sports last week, actually. And I think from a sports perspective, being able to show off your individuality within digital gaming is an obvious unlock. And, the partnership they've done with Dot Swoosh is all about what I just said. So there's, early indicators there that is a trajectory that's happening, and Round 21 is in the discussion as well. But from our perspective, thinking about what it takes for NFTs to be successful feels like it'll make my brain hurt and like a big one. So instead, we just think about whenever we do something, what's the next thing? The reality is every NFT project and platform and partner in the space that is still building is building with a long-term sustainable position, durable position in mind. And so waiting to redeem or collect something quickly feels like the old way everybody used to operate. And I would just encourage people to think about that sustainable, durable value that the partners and the properties are trying to create, and participate in it in a positive way and provide the support that it's going to take to get there.
Well, Jasmine, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun. I love what you're doing. As I've probably said 6 times during this interview, I'll try not to fangirl too hard, and just really excited to see where things continue to go on this journey.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And congratulations to everything you're building and keeping your platform open for everybody else.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.